So you
Plaisir de donner
explained
la
that
parole à
very clearly. And now
Rajendra
give the
Aryal,
floor
qui
to
vient du
Aryal,
service de la FAO
who comes
sur
from
la résilience
the FAO.
et
He deals with
riche de son
resilience.
expérience
He has had
en Asie, en Afrique.
He's had a lot of experience in
Il
Asia
va
and
traiter de
Africa,
cette question
and
essentielle
he's going to deal with this essential issue
du nexus entre
of the
l'humanitaire, le développement et la paix
between what is
dans les
humanitarian
situations de
and
fragilité.
development
et de
and
voir
peace
comment on peut
in
construire.
fragile countries,
Rajendra, vous avez la parole.
and how we
Merci.
can build on that. Thank you very much. Rajendra, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I will try to present things from the field. As FAO, I have been working in the field for the last 24 years, running from one crisis to the other. And Bernard, I really loved your questions at the end of your presentation. Maybe we'll try to bring some food for thought to address those questions, because these are practical challenges that we face on day-to-day basis. I'll start with the slides, please. Okay, I'll start with the State of Food Security, the SOFI report of 2017. If you look at the curve, around 2000, we were like 900 million hungry people suffering from chronic hunger. And thanks to the efforts made by the international community, different donors, different partners, the figure went down. Say by 2014, 2015, it was really below even 700 million. And now if you look at the trend, as of the report, as of 2016, the 2017 report says that 815 million people are suffering from chronic hunger. And same with the undernutrition. And 60% of these people are living in conflict-affected countries. As we can see from the graph, about 500 million people are living there. Out of that, 125 million people are suffering from acute hunger. And this 124 million actually, some of them also lie outside the sphere of this 815. Meaning that they are vulnerable, and even a small state of shock could push them into another state. This is based on IPC, the Cadre Harmonese phase 3. I'm sure people are aware of this integrated phase classification. 2040, the global report on food crisis, Bernard mentioned about it. I'll come to it later. This was a real joint effort, which is now in place for the last 3 years. As per the report, 45 countries were analyzed. And now there's an increase of 11 million people. Actually, it started with 80 million, it went to 109 million, and now the latest report says 124 million. Actually, the number of countries were also increased. Like from 45, it went to 51, but still, only in the 45 countries analyzed over a period of 3 years, 11 million people have increased. Out of that, 52 million people under malnutrition, and 17 million people, children, are severely malnourished. And then, as we heard also from the speakers in the past, there are several causes: outbreaks and intensified conflict, insecurity, the conflicts in Yemen, Northeast Nigeria, DRC, South Sudan, and last year, probably you heard about these 4 countries: one famine, South Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, Northeast Nigeria. In addition, there are also climate shocks. The Assistant Secretary General, you talked about the climate change, the effects of climate change in different states. This is also driving a lot of people out of their homeland. I mean, if you look at South Sudan, and if you look at the graph, from the time the conflict started, end of 2013, early 2014, and I was based in South Sudan, and I could see how this, the state of food insecurity has increased. And if you see this red spots, these are the phase 3, IPC phase 3 classification. And probably you remember last year, Unity State was even declared as famine. I don't want to go into the details. You have the presentations with the figures. This is just an example. And then since I was involved in this, I could talk about it. Again, coming back to this global report on food crisis, the outlook for 2018, it also doesn't look really great. I mean, if you see the countries like Afghanistan, Yemen, Afghanistan is a country, Yemen has like more than 10 million people under chronic We have Afghanistan between 5 and 9 million, and also there are other countries. And you could also see some countries in Asia, like they are not very much at alert level, but these are the countries under consideration and under watch. But why agriculture? Why agriculture is important? Out of the 124 million people that they are suffering from severe food insecurity, majority of them live in the rural areas. 8 of 10 people rely on crop production, subsistence farming, fishing, livestock, and forest for their survival. And they are always the most vulnerable people. They are always the people who are so vulnerable to external shocks. And they are almost like they are the ones who are standing on the edge of the cliff, and even a small shock could, let them fall off the cliff. And it is important. It's not, okay, humanitarian support is needed, yes. But why we need to invest in agriculture is because agriculture is resilient. Agriculture helps these people come out of that situation, slowly revert back to the normal way of livelihood. And we talked about, Bernard, I think you mentioned, like, how can we even invest in agriculture in the war situation? I think Syria is a very good case study. Syria produced 4.1 million metric ton of wheat in normal situation before the conflict. And now, after the 7 years of conflict, Syria is still producing 2 million metric ton of food. And these are the people who are living still behind. They are working in the field, despite the displacement, despite the damages in agriculture sector, the loss of seed stock, loss of food stock, damages to the irrigation canals. So that means if we try to do something sincerely, this could help. This is working. Of course, there are external factors. Agriculture also contributes to sustaining peace. The example I would like to give is from Abyei in South Sudan, when the Miserias, they are coming from the north and the Dinkas are going from the south, and they go with their livestock grazing. And there is always conflict on natural resources, on water, on pasture land. FAO, thanks to the European Union, we introduced a project on vaccination. Started vaccinating the animals, but that was just an entry point. That was a point when both these communities came together and started having a dialogue. And that helped. That helped minimize the conflict. You mentioned, James, about Mindanao. Mindanao has been affected for I don't know how many years. I was also involved there from the program planning till implementation. Up to 2014, I was supporting also Mindanao. And we supported the people in Zamboanga. Actually, FAO and ILO, we developed a project together, supported these displaced farmers, especially the fishers, on seaweed production, the women on mushroom production. We replaced the fishing gears. And that worked. And on top of that, another element in this type of countries, I can give also examples from Afghanistan or Pakistan. When the people are displaced, when they live in the displaced areas or camps, and if they are not provided with any work, anything can happen. I recall an example from Pakistan. When Taliban attacked Swat Valley, there was a displacement. A lot of people were living along the camps in Peshawar. I visited one of the camps and met some of the farmers. They were apple growers and pomegranate growers. They were pretty like medium to big orchard owners. And they were living in the tents, 42 degrees Celsius, doing nothing. And they said, listen, our young people are getting spoiled. Do something. And then we facilitated distribution of small packs of seed and some watering cans and all. And I later went and talked to that gentleman, and he said it really helped. It helped us also psychosocially. And we could talk in the evening about agriculture, about growing vegetables. And we started remembering our farms, the orchard farms. So this really helps. Syria, this is the latest crisis that everybody's aware of. Last 6 months, I have been supporting the Syrian refugees in southeastern Turkey. Turkey is hosting 3.5 million Syrian refugees. But at the same time, Turkey also has about 10% of the youth unemployed, and they also have a lot of seasonal agriculture workers. So FAO and UNHCR, we started a project together at a lower scale, started supporting the Syrian refugees, building their skills, vocational skills, training, and facilitating the job in the local market. And last month, I was in Gaziantep. I had a meeting with some Syrian refugees, including agro-engineers and agronomists. And they said, only in Gaziantep, we had 300 educated agriculturists, and we are doing nothing. That's probably a nonlinear approach. We have to think, how can we engage these people? At the same time, we are using the private sectors to train these people on the job. So this is an opportunity that they are interacting with the Turkish interpreters, learning the language. and enhancing this sort of like a social cohesion. You may recall the report from International Crisis Group that came out in February this year that said the situation in some of the provinces in southeast Turkey is alarming. Some of the provinces like Kilis or Sanliurfa, the population is half-half almost. So unless, I really liked what you said, Bernard, we really need to think a nonlinear approach and start thinking, how can we engage these people? Humanitarian assistance is critical, definitely. As we manage, thanks to all of you, the famine last year was averted in these 4 countries, but the situation is not yet over. South Sudan is still suffering. Yemen is still suffering. Humanitarian action is needed, but development and peace-building interventions need to start, and we have to work together. And again, I come back to Bernard saying we have to work together. Yes, global food security, the report we mentioned. And also thanks to Netherlands, I believe there is a representative from Netherlands here. Your effort made it possible to have this UN Security Council Resolution 2047, 2018 that recognized food security could be drivers of forced displacement, and conversely, forced displacement also have devastating impact on agricultural production and livelihood. So we have come to this stage. I think we are already out of the box. Now we need to move forward. Working together. This global report on food crisis was first step. Again, it started with EU, FAO, and WFP. We were 3 agencies, and now we are 12 at global level, and it is picking up the momentum. And it's just like it looks like a report, but it's a real consensus-building exercise that we have agreed to work together, share the information together, plan the things together, inform each other on programming, and develop this network, this Food Security Information Network. We are all part of the World Humanitarian Summit. I think we have all signed different commitments. As FAO, as I represent FAO, we have a colleague from WFP. At the highest level, our Director General and WFP Executive Director, they are traveling together to different countries, giving a very joint message saying, we are here together and we want to work together. And it's a time to develop the synergies, getting out of the box, coming to the nonlinear approach, and address the food security on this humanitarian development peace nexus. Promote joint programming, partnership, advocacy. I was working for the Global Food Security Cluster, actually sitting in WFP for the last 2.5 years. And I was very closely working with different NGO partners. We really need to work together and enhance this advocacy and partnership. First achievement was definitely this report, but we have a way forward. Some of the examples I would like to bring here from the field on this humanitarian development programming. At Rome level, we started this Rome-based agencies initiatives on resilience building. It is FAO, WFP, and IFAD. We have a framework, and it's a sort of a global program, and with multi-funding, it has made us possible to come up with different frameworks and different approaches, some papers. At the field level, one good example is Niger, where WFP provided support on food for assets, restoring pasture land and water infrastructure. FAO, we provided technical support on food diversification, farmer field schools, agricultural practices, good nutrition practices, and IFAD provided fund to invest in rural infrastructure. And this project also targeted rural youth, and that helped create jobs. And that also helped minimize out-migration. So if we work together, there are possibilities. There are different platforms. There are avenues. Somalia is another example where FAO, WFP, and UNICEF work together. WFP provided safety nets. We focused on production, and UNICEF provided access to basic services and protection. Unfortunately, because of the drought, because of the climate change, the last year, the result of this project was pretty good, actually. When we responded, thank you, sir, I'm finishing. When we talked to the beneficiaries, they said, the level of confidence has really built up, and they have been able to cope with the situation, and they have enhanced the resilience. 38% of the people responded. And these beneficiaries also reported increase in income of 118%. Unfortunately, because of the drought and climate change, this has spiraled back. The momentum was gained, the process is started, process is initiated. I think we have come to a point, and this can be processed further. This can go further. With this, I would like to stop here. I think I maintained the time, 2 minutes, 10 minutes. So agriculture, as a means. And I want to cite another example. I was in Peshawar in 2012. I went to see the director of FATA Development Management, Disaster Management Authority. After a meeting, he told me, can we talk in private? So he asked everybody to go out, and two of us, we talked. And he said, listen, I have a guy, and I need a job for him. He's from a farming family. He's a farmer, but he studied IT. And the guy was very bright on information technology. He came out of Peshawar University, and he was hijacked by Taliban. And he was asked to develop GIS maps of different cities in Afghanistan. And the guy escaped from that captivity. And he was looking for a job. And the job he was looking for was in agriculture. So that means also in order to avoid this type of qualified youths, I think agriculture is a very good entry point. I stop here. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Rajendra.
Thank you very much, Rajendra, for outlining to us very telling examples of what can be done, and along non-linear lines